You saw the big leafy plant in the thumbnail and the word infinite, and you figured it for one more bit of garden nonsense, some miracle weed a fellow is about to try to sell you. It is not. This morning I walked to the north fence of my garden with a sickle, the same as I have most every few weeks for 30 years, and I cut down a great armful of broad green leaves from one plant that I put in the ground one time, decades ago, that has fed this whole garden for free. Ever since, and never once asked a thing back. I never bought it again. I never fed it. I just cut it and carried the leaves to my tomatoes. One plant in one corner, feeding everything for life. The fertilizer companies have known about this plant for 100 years. And it is exactly because they know that you have probably never heard its name. Because there is no way on this earth to sell a man a bag of something that grows itself for nothing in his own back corner. So I will be straight with you the way a neighbor would. I will tell you what it is, how it does what it does, the real man and the real trials behind it, and the 4 ways I use it. But stay with me clear to the end, because there is one catch to this plant, one honest catch. The miracle videos never tell you. And I have watched a grown man up the road spend 5 years and finally borrow a backhoe, trying to undo the mistake of planting it in the wrong spot. I will tell you exactly how to never make that mistake, but you have to hear the whole thing first. Because if you plant this plant wrong, you will curse my name. And if you plant it right, you will bless it for 30 years. The plant is comfrey. Let me give you the whole of it first, and then I will earn it. Comfrey is a big, leafy, deep-rooted plant. You plant it once, usually from a piece of root in a corner where you can leave it be, because it is going to be there a long, long time. It grows a great clump of broad, rough leaves, and 3, 4, 5 times a season you cut that whole clump down to near the ground with a sickle, and you carry those leaves to your garden and you lay them down as mulch right around your tomatoes, your potatoes, your fruit trees, anywhere you want feeding. The leaves rot down fast, in a matter of days. And as they rot, they give back into the soil a rich load of the exact minerals your crops are hungry for. More potash than most any manure, good nitrogen, the works. And the plant you cut down just grows right back. And in a few weeks, you cut it again. One plant, cut after cut after cut, all season, every season, for decades, feeding your whole garden for free. That is comfrey. Now let me tell you how it does it, because this is the part that is genuinely a marvel, and once you see it, you will want a row of these tomorrow. Most of your garden plants are shallow feeders. Their roots run in the top foot or so of soil, and they eat the minerals up there. And over the years, they use that top layer up, which is why you keep having to add fertilizer. But down below that, deep down, 3 feet, 6 feet, even 10 feet down in the subsoil, there is a great bank of minerals, potash and phosphorus and trace elements, locked away where no ordinary garden root will ever reach. It might as well be on the moon for all the good it does your tomatoes. Comfrey is different. Comfrey drives a great thick taproot straight down into that subsoil, down to the mineral bank that nothing else can touch, and it mines it. It pulls those deep minerals up through that taproot and packs them into its leaves. So when you cut those leaves and lay them on your garden, you are not just adding mulch. You are taking the riches from 6 feet down, riches that were utterly out of reach, and spreading them right on the surface where your shallow-rooted crops can finally eat them. The comfrey is a pump, a free, living, solar-powered pump that lifts fertilizer up out of the deep earth and hands it to your garden. Your grandmother did not know the word for it, but she knew a comfrey patch fed a garden, and she was right. And the numbers are real, and they are something. A good stand of comfrey throws out a tremendous weight of leaf in a season, cut after cut. Those leaves run 2 to 3 parts in 100 of nitrogen, and as much as 7 parts in 100 of potash, richer in potash than farmyard manure. And they break down so fast in under a couple of days in warm weather that they give it up to the soil almost at once. There is no waiting a year on it to compost. You lay it down, and within days it is feeding. Now, where does this come from? and why did we ever stop? Folks have grown comfrey a very long time, but the man who really studied it, proved it out, and wrote it down plain was an Englishman named Lawrence Hills. Back in the 1950s and 60s, Lawrence Hills ran careful trials on comfrey, and he founded an organization to study exactly these kinds of cheap, sound, old methods, the Henry Doubleday Research Association. Named for an earlier man who had championed the plant, Hills bred and tested the best strain of it, a particular comfrey he called Bocking 14, after the place his trial gardens were. That Bocking 14 is the one serious gardeners still plant today. And the reason matters, and I will come back to it, because it is half the answer to the catch I promised you. The work is real, the man is real, the trials are real. The science was done and written down 70 years ago. So why have you never heard of it? I will be honest, because that honesty is the whole reason I am sitting here. Nobody banned comfrey. You will see folks online hint it was suppressed or made illegal, and that is just not so, and I will not tell you a lie to keep you watching. What happened is the same quiet thing that happens to every good free method. There is no profit in it. A fertilizer company makes its living selling you a bag every spring, year after year, forever. A plant that pumps its own fertilizer up out of the subsoil for free, that grows back faster than you can cut it, that you plant once and harvest for 30 years, is the worst possible product. You cannot sell it. You cannot patent the dirt 6 feet down. So comfrey never got advertised, never got pushed, never filled the garden store shelf, and slowly it fell out of the books and out of fashion while the bagged fertilizer with the bright label took its place. It was not banned. It was just dropped, the way every cheap good thing gets dropped the minute somebody can sell you the bought version instead. And here's the part that ought to make you a little angry, so let me sit with it. Because it is the thing that turned me from a man who bought bags into a man who grows his own. Under healthy soil, there is a partnership older than farming, older than men. The fungus threads in the ground wrap themselves around your plant's roots, and they trade with it. The fungus reaches far out into the soil, far past where the root can go, and gathers up phosphorus and water and minerals and brings them back to the plant. And in return, the plant feeds the fungus a little of the sugar it makes from sunlight. It is a fair trade, struck 1 billion years ago, and it feeds your garden for free. Now here is the part that should make you angry. When you pour on a heavy synthetic fertilizer full of soluble phosphorus, you hand the plant its phosphorus for nothing, easy, right at the root. And the plant, being no fool, quits feeding the fungus, because why pay the fungus when the bag gives it free? And the fungus partnership withers, so next year your soil is a little more dead, a little less able to feed your plants on its own, and you need the bag a little more. The bag does not just feed your plant. It slowly kills the free system that used to feed your plant until you cannot stop buying it. That is not an accident. That is the finest customer a company ever made, one whose soil gets hungrier the more you sell him. Comfrey and mulch and feeding the soil instead of the plant does the reverse. It feeds the fungus, builds the partnership, and every year your ground needs you less. One road makes you a renter of your own fertility forever. The other road slowly makes you free. Now you know which one got sold to you. Let me tell you why that high potash matters so much. Because this is the part that tells you where to use comfrey and where not to bother, and most folks never learn it. Of the 3 big things a plant eats, nitrogen mostly grows leaf, the green and the bulk. But potash, the potassium, is the mineral of fruit and flower. It is what a plant draws on to set blooms, to fatten a tomato, to swell a potato, to ripen and sweeten and fill out a crop. A plant starved of potash grows green and leafy and gives you very little to eat. And comfrey, richer in potash than barnyard manure, is therefore almost made by the Lord himself to feed the very plants we care most about: the tomatoes, the peppers, the squash, the potatoes, the berry canes, the fruit trees. That is why I ring my tomatoes with it and feed them nothing else. because I am laying down exactly the mineral a fruiting plant is hungriest for, free, pumped up from 6 feet down. So if you grow leafy greens, comfrey is fine, but you hardly need it. But if you grow anything that fruits or flowers or sets a tuber, comfrey is the single best free feed you will ever put your hands on, because it is loaded with the one thing that crop wants most. Match the feed to the need, and a corner of comfrey will outfruit a whole shelf of bagged fertilizer. Let me give you the 4 ways I use comfrey on my own ground, because the chop and drop mulch is just the first of them. The first way is the chop and drop, the one I gave you. Cut the leaves, lay them whole right on the soil around your hungry plants as mulch, and let them rot down and feed. Simplest and best. I ring my tomatoes and my squash with comfrey leaves 3 or 4 times a summer, and feed them nothing else. The second way is the comfrey tea, and I will warn you now, it is the most useful and the most foul-smelling thing in the garden. You pack a bucket or a barrel full of cut comfrey leaves, weight them down, add a little water, and let it sit and rot a few weeks. What you get is a thick, dark, powerfully stinking liquid, and it is the richest free liquid feed there is. You dilute it 10 or 15 parts water to 1 of the brew until it is the color of weak tea, and pour it at the base of your plants. They leap on it. Just do your stewing downwind of the house, because the smell will clear a room. The third way is in the planting hole. When I set out a tomato or a potato, I lay a few wilted comfrey leaves right down in the bottom of the hole before I plant. And as they rot under the plant, they feed it slow and steady all season from below, right at the roots. The fourth way is the compost activator. A layer of comfrey leaves worked into a slow compost pile heats it up and gets it cooking, because that rich, fast-rotting leaf is just what the pile needs to come alive. A handful of comfrey turns a sluggish heap into a working one. Let me tell you the rhythm of it, the when and the how, because a plant this generous still has a schedule, and it pays to know it. You plant comfrey from a root cutting in spring or fall, set the piece of root a few inches down, water it, and then you must be patient, because that first year it is digging that deep taproot, and you should cut it little or not at all. Let it build itself. From the second year on, it is in full swing. You take your first cut in the late spring when the clump is knee-high, and just before it flowers, and that is the richest cut of the year. Then you cut it again every 4 to 6 weeks as it grows back, 3, 4, 5 cuts through the season, right up until fall when you let the last growth die back and feed the crown for winter. A mature clump in good ground gives you cut after cut and only gets bigger. 1 clump is plenty for a small garden, but to feed a big plot, plant 3 or 4 along an edge, and you will have all the free fertility you can carry. And do not waste the rest of what the plant offers, because comfrey gives more than mulch. The bees love the flowers, so a patch feeds your pollinators too, which feeds the whole garden by another road. The deep taproot breaks up hard subsoil and opens drainage where it grows. And folks have long used comfrey for other things besides the garden, though I will keep to the soil and leave the rest alone, because my business is the dirt and the plants, not telling a man what to do with his own body. For the garden, it is leaf and root and flower, all 3 working, all free, all from 1 plant in 1 corner. Now, before I give you the catch I promised you, I want you to remember that neighbor of mine and his backhoe, because we are coming right up on it, and I do not want you to be him. He heard comfrey was a miracle, same as you just did. And he was right, it is. But he planted it dead in the middle of his best vegetable bed, the rich ground he used for everything. And within 3 years, he wanted that bed back, and he could not have it. He dug, and it came back. He tilled, and every chopped piece of root grew a new plant. So he had 10 where he had 1. He covered it, he cursed it, and in the end, he brought in a machine to tear out 4 feet of soil, and even then, a piece survived and sprouted the next spring. 5 years. All because of 1 wrong choice at planting that took 10 minutes to make. So hear this catch, because it is the most important thing I will tell you in the whole video. Comfrey is nearly impossible to get rid of once it is established. That same deep, thick taproot that makes it a wonderful mineral pump also makes it a plant that will not leave. Every little piece of root you leave behind when you dig, and you will leave pieces behind, grows into a whole new plant. You cannot till it out, you cannot easily kill it, so you absolutely must plant comfrey only where you are content to have it for the next 20 or 30 years. Pick a corner, an edge, a strip along a fence, ground you are happy to give over to it for good, and put it there. Do not ever plant it in the middle of a bed you will want back, because it will be there long after you have changed your mind. That is the catch. It is a real one, and it is the whole reason I tell you to plant the right kind. Because here is the other half, and it takes most of the trouble away. The common wild comfrey sets seed, and seed blows around and sprouts where you never wanted it, and that is how comfrey earns its bad name as a spreader. But the Bocking 14 that Lawrence Hills bred, that name strain I told you to remember, is sterile. It does not set seed. It stays put as the clump you planted, growing bigger, but not seeding itself all over your land. So if you plant comfrey, plant Bocking 14, the root cutting kind that does not seed, in a corner you will give it for good, and you get all of the gift and far less of the trouble. Plant the wild seeding kind in the middle of your garden, and you will be my neighbor with the backhoe. Plant the right strain in the right place, and you will bless it for 30 years. That is the whole secret of doing this right, and now it is yours. I will tell you about old Eli King, a man who gardened up the road from us when I was a boy. Eli King had a comfrey patch along his north fence that his own father had planted, and it had fed 3 generations of that family's gardens, and it was still going strong, still getting cut 4 times a summer, when Eli King was an old man. He never bought a bag of fertilizer in his life that I knew of. He just walked to the fence with his sickle the way I did this morning. That patch was older than he was, and it fed his garden better the year he died than it had the year his father planted it. You cannot buy a thing like that. You can only plant it once in the right spot and let it work for the rest of your days and your children's after you. So why plant one corner of comfrey instead of buying a bag every spring? Because the bag runs out, and the corner never does. The bag costs more every year, and the corner costs nothing ever again. The bag slowly wears your soil down, and the corner builds it up. The fertilizer company would much rather you forgot this plant exists, and for 50 years, most folks did. Planting comfrey is not nostalgia. It is the quiet choice to feed your own soil for free, for life, instead of renting your fertility from a company one bag at a time. And let me tell you how to start cheap, because the beauty of this plant is that one is all you ever need to buy. You buy a single Bocking 14 root cutting, just a few dollars from a grower who sells them, and you plant it. Then, once it is established a year or two, you dig and divide your own clump, cut the crown into pieces, each with a bit of root, and plant those out. And now you have 10 plants from the one you bought for nothing. A neighbor with a patch can hand you a piece of root and start you for free. That is the whole spirit of it. You buy in once, small, and from then on it multiplies itself, and you share it down the road and over the fence the way the old methods always traveled, hand to hand, root to root, costing nobody anything. One last thing, the tweak that makes the chop and drop work even better. When you cut your comfrey, let the leaves wilt a day in the sun before you lay them down. Do not use them fresh and stiff. A wilted leaf has lost its stiffness, lies flat against the soil, and rots down faster and more evenly. And a fresh, stiff leaf can sometimes take root itself if it touches damp ground, which you surely do not want. Wilt it a day, then drop it, and it feeds faster and cannot sprout where you laid it. I am not asking you to take my word for any of it. Plant one comfrey root, the Bocking 14 kind, in one corner this season. Somewhere you will leave it for good. Cut it a few times, lay the leaves around one tomato plant, and let the ground show you. Tell me your county and your zone below, because comfrey behaves a little different north and south, and I read every one. After 60 years working this same ground, I will tell you the gardens that never went hungry were the ones with an old comfrey patch in the corner that nobody could quite remember planting. The folks before us knew how to grow their own fertility and hand it down. We traded it for a bag with a bright label. The folks who settled this country with their bare hands